Hello everybody, welcome to the next episode of Decants with D. Today we're doing something completely different. We're giving an introduction to my favorite Italian wines. I am Dietmar Ostermann. I'm the regular guy from Long Island, New York, and I am your host today. So, we have been talking in previous episodes about Napa Valley Cabernet, and by now you figured out that's my favorite wine. But I do have other wines that I like a lot. Italy is probably my second most favorite region after California, and Italy is a complex wine region. And if you're an expert in Italian wines, I recommend you go straight to my next episode to come where I discuss some of these Italian wines in more detail. If you are new to wine or if you're new to Italian wines, this is your show. So out of these many 20 regions, I like to divide it up in 5 mega regions. There's the Northeast. The Northeast is really the Piedmont region with all the Piedmont wines, Barolo and others, and we come back to that. Then there's the Northwest, that's Veneto, that has the Amarone wines and many other good wines. And then there's the Central region. The Central region is massive and has many, many wine regions within it. But the most famous Central region to the west of the Central region is Tuscany. And there in Tuscany, you have many, many very good wines. So today, in this episode, we will talk a little bit about Tuscan wines, we will talk a little bit about Piedmont wines, and we will talk a little bit about Veneto wines. We are not covering the other regions, and just for completeness sake, one mega area down to the south is Sicily, we are not covering that, and one area to the southwest is the island of Sardinia, we are not covering that either. So come a little bit closer, and now we are starting with probably what is my favorite Italian wine, and that is the Chianti out of Tuscany. So I have assembled here for you a number of these wines. In the first row, those 3 are very typical Chianti Classico Reserva. Over here to the outright, I have the Brunello di Montalcino. Over here, I have a typical Vino Nobile di Montepulciano. And then here on top, many of you may have heard, Super Tuscans. Well, I'll explain to you in a minute what's all about Super Tuscans. So staying with the Tuscan region, there's one grape that's dominating the region, and that's the Sangiovese grape. When we come to Brunello, that's the Brunello di Montalcino wine that's south of Tuscany. There's this island of Montalcino, the little city, and that's where they make the Brunello. I consider Brunello to be complicated wines. They always have to be decanted. They have to be a little bit older. I'd say 5 out of 10 that I drink are not right. And the other 5 that I do drink are fantastic. So it's a complicated wine, typically a bigger wine that has to be drunk with stronger foods. The attractiveness of the Chianti, and within Chianti, there's this oval sub-region of Chianti called Chianti Classico. That's where I want you to get your wines from because they are a tick better than the outside the Classico region. And then if you go for a Chianti Classico Reserva, so here for instance is Villa Antinori Chianti Classico Reserva. It's a 2012. That means that they have aged longer in oak and are typically the better of the Chianti wines. The good thing about Chianti is you can buy a Chianti for $15, $20, $25, and probably the most expensive Chiantis are maybe $30. The same is true for Vino Nobile di Montepulciano. They are coming from the small little town of Montepulciano, also south of Siena. That wine is considered to be everyday drinking wine, probably available for $20 a bottle. Whereas the Brunellos are much more in the $50 to $60 regions. And when you come to the Super Tuscans, the phenomenon with the Super Tuscans is that some of the more creative Italian vintners look to North America, saw what was happening with the revolution in California with the Cabernet Sauvignon grape. And so they started to blend the Sangiovese with the California Cabernet Sauvignon grape, with the Merlot grape, and that's how they started to invent a Super Tuscan wine. The most famous Super Tuscans are a Tignanello, which I have right here, or a Sassicaia. You also have the Solaya and the Ornellaia. So those are the original 4 of the Super Tuscans. Every one of these bottles is easily initially $100 or $200. So that's much more for the established wine drinker. Whereas the Chiantis is the everyday wine that I would recommend to drink with a pasta or with a pizza. So let's move over to the other side. Over here I have a selection of Piedmont wines. And to break down Piedmont wines, similar to Tuscany, where I talked about 3, maybe 4 wines, I also talk about 3 wines here. So the number 1 wine of of Piedmont that really everybody talks about is a Barolo. Barolo is also oftentimes in Italy referred to as the king of the wines. It's a heavy wine, so that's the wine that you don't drink typically with pizza or with pasta. That's the wine that you drink with a heavy meal with steak. And a Barolo needs to age. Now, while the Tuscan wines were based on the Sangiovese grape, the Barolos are based on the Nebbiolo grape. Completely different grape. They are much longer aged in oak. A fantastic wine, strong. You want to drink them 10 years or older, whereas a Chianti you want to drink 10 years or younger. Now the other wines in Piedmont is up front here, famously the Babera. When you come to the Piedmont region, there's a little town that's actually called Barolo. They probably have like 5 small hotels in it. You can stay there overnight when you visit. There's also actually a small little town of Barbaresco, where the Barbaresco wines come from. They also are from the Nebbiolo grape. The most famous of the Barbarescos is probably a wine that many of you have heard. It's called the Gaia. Gaia is a winter. They are house numbers in terms of price. You can't really find a Gaia bottle that's not at least $200 in price. But these are typically $60 plus or minus, these Barberas. So are the Barolos. You can start getting good Barolos for $40. They go up to $50, $60, $70. Over here, I have what is called the Babera, and typically they differentiate between Babera di Alba and Babera di Asti. This is a Babera di Alba, this is a Babera di Asti. And the Babera is the everyday country wine, similar to a Chianti. So bottles like these are $15 to $20 and you can drink them immediately. They don't need to age. A very good day-to-day wine. So now, the third region that I want to cover real quick, and I know I'm not doing that region, it's real duty, is Veneto. So Veneto goes from Lake Garda in the northwest of Italy all the way over via Verona to Venice. And that whole region has multiple very interesting wines with it. Some of you are very familiar with bubbled wines, champagnes, and many of you have drank in one of these before. That's the Prosecco, and that Veneto region is where all those Proseccos made. Another very famous white wine in the Veneto region is the Pinot Grigio. A lot of people in America, and I too, drink Pinot Grigio wines, white wines. But I focus here clearly on red wines. And the number 1 red wine out of the Veneto region, right at Lake Garda, is this world famous Amarone. Amarone is a strong, intense wine, most comparable to a Cabernet Sauvignon. So I would even say it's stronger than a Barolo. That's really heavy wine, high alcohol percentage, typical wine you drink with a steak or with a lamb or something very heavy. So I've covered all my wines that I wanted to cover. Let's step back and do a tasting. We need to do a tasting at every one of those episodes. And what I want to do is compare a Chianti Classico Reserva against a Barolo. Now remember, Chianti Classico, I want to drink within 10 years. And the Barolos, I want to drink ideally older than 10 years. So I have here the Villa Antinori Chianti Classico Reserva 2013. 2013 was an excellent year in the Chianti region. 2015 also was a great year. If you find any 2013, they must be drinking this year. If you have 2015s or 2016s, which was another excellent year in Chianti, you can put them away for a little bit, but sooner or later they need to be drunken because they want to be drunken young, whereas these Barolos want to be drunken after 10 years. So let me quickly open this Chianti. Now, fittingly, I have my Italian machinery here, which I bought in the Barolo Wine Museum in the Piedmont area. And then I recommend every Italian wine on the red wines to decant. Even a Chianti that you buy for $15 or $20, they need air, they need room to grow and to oxidize. So I'm decanting as we speak this 2013 Villa Antinori. And Villa Antinori is, for those American listeners, the Robert Mondavi of Italy. Antinori vineyard has been around since, I believe, 1385, so over 600 years. They also have a partnership with Mondavi. It is one of the absolute mega wineries over there in Tuscany. So let's look at this. The color is medium dark, a little bit lighter than what we are used to from Cabernet Sauvignon, but a good dark color, a little bit brownish, which is very typical for Chianti. No legs. Let's give it some sniff. Oh, a lot of cherry, very fruity. So let's give it a whirl. Very pleasant fruit on the palate, lots of cherry, lots of fruit, a little bit of a bite. I think that comes from the fact that it's already 2013, 7 years old. Probably this wine would have been a tick better at 1 year ago or 2 years ago when it was a little bit younger. Let me have another one. The finish, which is the last part of my tasting process all the time, is shorter. It's a little bit sour, a little bit of a bite. Again, I believe that's because 2013 is a tick too old. This wine should have been probably drunk in about a year ago. All right, let's pour this away. And now let's do the Barolo. Now the Barolo that we have is another legendary vineyard over there in Piedmont, the Pio Cesare. It's a legendary vineyard. This is a 2013 as well. So both of these wines were 2013. The one Chianti that I tasted was at the end of its life. This is probably coming into the beginning of its life. 2013 was a great year in Piedmont, just like it was in Tuscany. If you drink Barolo wines right now, 11 was another great year that's a little bit older. 2007 was a fantastic year. And even 2001s and 2000s you can drink right now. They're 20 years old, but a good Barolo easily lasts 25 years. All right. Pops right out. Very well preserved. Let's clean out the glass. And pour some of the Barolo. Again, if I had a little bit more time, I would definitely decant this wine. The color is see-through, but beautiful ruby red. I have a lot more legs on the wine when I shake the wine around the glass than I have in the Chianti. Brown, burnt earth, fruit, dark fruit, mostly black cherry. Let's give it a whirl. Excellent. This wine is just starting to become the right drinking age. You can taste it by having the tannins biting in your mouth. The Chianti didn't have any more tannins, which really told you it was ripe out in the bottle. This one still has a little bit of tannins left. The tannins are well, so it's not too much, no overwhelming. But probably in a year or so, or two, this wine may be at its absolute prime. Has a very nice finish. The finish is long, it lingers on. It wasn't as short as the finish of the Chianti. Yeah, very pleased with this Barolo. Can recommend the Barolo wholeheartedly. The Chianti I know is a great wine, but probably 2013 is too old, so you should be looking for the same wine, the Villa Antinori 2015 or 2016. And with that, I am done for today. Please follow me on Vivino. I'm a heavy rater on Vivino. Both of these wines are rated by me and by other experts on Vivino. The Chianti was 3.9 on Vivino. The Barolo was 4.2 on Vivino. And then also follow me on this channel. Thank you very much.